Hello BookTube, I'm Mike and this is Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance. Today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to do my very first response video, and in fact it's not just a response video, it's a response to a response to a response to a response to an original video done by Shelley, and the responses came from Mark at Book Time with Elvis, from Randy Ray, the Literate Texan, and from Steve Donoghue. So I thought, well, the veterans have spoken. Maybe it's time for a rookie to have his 2 pence worth, and that's what I thought I would do. Shelley's video looked at the reasons people leave and ultimately emphasized the need for BookTube to be a joyful experience, just as reading is, and I can't argue with that in any way at all. Mark talked about the need to manage expectations realistically, which I think is a key point that I'll come back to in a second, and emphasized the benefits of BookTube from a point of view of making friends and building a like-minded reading community. Randy talks about some of the benefits that it had been in his own personal experience and was keen to emphasize the positives. And Steve raised the issue about why we are so hung up on metrics and whether in fact the comparison thing is the problem or whether it's what he called greed. And I'd like to think a little bit about that one. Just in terms of the 3 sections that Shelley originally tackled the subject in, and the other guys all followed suit, so I'll do the same, to look at it under 3 different sections: evolution, the algorithm, and then BookTube itself. Evolution, I guess, is the learning curve that they've all talked about going through, where the keen young puppy dog booktuber wants to get involved and can't believe the fantastic community he stumbled across, and therefore, yes, sign me up for everything, I'll do everything. And of course, meanwhile, back in the real world, we've all got day jobs or commitments or families, and it becomes just too much. From my personal point of view, I went through the same initial stage of being absolutely excited by finding the BookTube community, and I hasten to add, I'm referring to this corner, as we call it, of BookTube. The real readers, not the book talk end, not the look at all my pretty pink books, but the ones with substance. And as I've said before, my reading renaissance is about finding the books that I've missed, finding the missing pieces in the jigsaw puzzle of fulfilling myself through reading to be the best that I can be, maximize my potential as a human being. It sounds very grand, but that's actually what the thinking is behind my channel and what I'm trying to do. I think maybe I have one slight advantage over some of the younger people joining BookTube, is that when you get as venerable as I am and some of my predecessors in these response videos, you've seen a lot of life, and I think that helps perhaps to put things in perspective, because I came in very realistic about the time available. I'm a person who has a extremely busy and demanding day job. I love reading. Most of my life, while I've been building my career and raising a family, I haven't had enough time to prioritize reading as I have now. And therefore I wanted to give it a priority while we're still here, as Steve always reminds us, and I wanted to make sure that I used my reading time effectively. I take it very personally when I read a book and it wasn't worth it. That's not a good experience at all. But in terms of my expectations from BookTube, I wanted the idea of finding like-minded people to communicate with. I massively value the experience of readers such as Shelley and Mark and Randy and Steve, who've all done in their own personal style videos about what we should read and why we should read it and what our approach to reading should be. That, for a guy like me who's trying to catch up, is absolutely invaluable. And I think at the same time, I'm having an enormous amount of fun having discovered a creative outlet. I know some of the comments in the responses have said that too much time spent on fancy thumbnails and effects tends to detract from the quality of the actual video. I don't really agree with that. I think to each his own. I think Much as I'm always in awe of Steve's wisdom and his thoughtfulness in his videos, I think once in a while he lays down the law and forgets that there's a lot of different personalities out there, and a lot of people might have different reasons for the way they want to do things differently. And I'm sure he wouldn't argue that there's room enough within the BookTube community for everybody. I, for example, have read all the wisdom on YouTube about how to do a thumbnail, and the current wisdom is it must be plain, it must be simple, there must be a photo of your face and no more than 5 words on it. That's how the algorithm wants to see your thumbnails. Now, if you look at any of the thumbnails I have prepared, including the one behind me for this video, you can see that I'm what would kindly be called non-compliant. And I think this is perhaps the secret to some of BookTube. As Steve quite rightly says in his video, BookTube provides the platform. It doesn't provide the inner rules. Those come from peer pressure. Those come from us saying, I'd better make sure I'm as good as so-and-so. Mr. So-and-so read 5 books and I've only read 2. I think the important thing with BookTube is to come to it on your own terms. I am just ticking over the 300 subscriber mark. And I look at that and I think, okay, I can look at that 2 ways. I can go, wow, that Steve and Shelley are in the stratosphere, and I and Randy and Mark are miles ahead of me, and what's the point? But then I need to stop and say, did I come to BookTube in order to get lots of subscribers and more subscribers than somebody else? Not at all. I came to BookTube to find fellow readers, people who are further down the journey of reading than me, not even in all cases, some who are less far down where I maybe can help them, but an exchange of reading ideas driven by a common love of reading. And that is here. That is provided entirely by BookTube, and I have to agree with Steve here. I think the pressure, we create the pressure ourselves. I take a view of saying, if I was going to start a book club, and I advertised, in my community and said, come and join my book club. If 300 people pitched up to join my book club, I would count that a riotous success, and I would enjoy it. And I would enjoy the fact that I suspect my percentage of bots is probably fewer than those who have 5- and 6-digit number of subscribers, because the people who've bothered to join my subscription have joined at a slow and steady pace, normally driven by one particular video that I've done that might interest them, be it Shake Timber or whatever, where they've thought, oh, hang on, this guy might just be worth having a look at. And so we go on. And I'm perfectly all right with that. So I think the evolution thing is very important, but the more you can pre-think the evolution, the less pain you will put yourself through. I'm very conscious that I really am a newbie. I've been at this, a couple of months, and maybe in a year's time, I will be not living up to the approach that I'm describing now. But I sincerely hope I will, because I feel there is so much positive in this community and this platform. I think it's up to us to make sure that we don't lose our way and get distracted as to what was the reasons we came here in the first place. That leads us on to Shelley's second pillar of the 3, if you like, which is the almighty algorithm. Now, I think, again, having just said what I've said, you need, before you think about the algorithm, you actually need to decide why you're doing BookTube. And I think, a little bit unlike Steve, I'll differ from him here, I think Steve sets down the answer to that question. I want to give the almighty YouTubers a choice. I think you can come to BookTube or YouTube for 2 reasons. You can come because you're a reader like me and you have the same objectives that I've described. Or, and there are many people who do this, you come to YouTube either for a business reason or seeking fame and fortune. None of which is a problem. All of those, the platform doesn't distinguish, you can do that. And indeed, there is a science to chasing the algorithm. There's books published, and there's rules you can follow, what time you post to your audience. The level of analytics available in YouTube is unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it. You could spend days analyzing it. And I'm a person who's good at figures and finance and things like that. So I can analyze it, and I do, out of interest. But I think the most important thing for me is that I'm actually not here for the algorithm. I've dallied. If you look carefully at my thumbnails, you will see some are what I call works of art, like this one behind me, where I've thought carefully about how would I like to use this blank canvas of a thumbnail to convey the inner feeling of what my video is all about and bugger the algorithm. And there are others where I've actually toyed with the experimentation. I know Randy talks a lot about experimenting with thumbnails to find out what impact various changes have. And that's fine. This is all a game. This is fun, guys. We should be doing what we feel like doing in BookTube. Personally, for me, I'm happy to try and understand it because I'm a curious person and I like to understand things. But there's a limit. I mean, if you literally go back and look at the video thumbnails I've made, I would suspect less than 10% of them would pass the test of the basic algorithm rules of what a thumbnail should have. I ain't going to do it. I just ain't going to do it. And if that means we grow our channel at a slow and steady, almost glacial pace, so be it. I'm not here to grow a business. I'm not here to make fame and fortune. I do agree with the argument several have made that if one wants to make money out of YouTube, choosing books as your target is a very strange business decision. And to take that even further, if you want to make money out of books on YouTube, there is only one space in which you should be playing, and that's BookTok, because BookTok is driving the publishing industry. And that ain't what we're about. I don't think that's what any of the people on my screen back here are about, as far as I understand it. So, the third pillar of Shelley's original discussion was BookTube itself. And again, I think I want to give people the flexibility. Steve is, I think, a little dictatorial in terms of this is how it works, guys, take it or leave it. I think there's a lot of ways to play BookTube, but I do think Steve is not wrong in terms of if your ambition is to grow a successful business model out of BookTube, this is the wrong place. This is the wrong way to do it. It doesn't work. I think what this platform does offer for what we call this corner of BookTube is the community. And I've only been part of this community for a very short time, but the depth and richness of it, whether it's a live stream with Steve, whether it's the Monday Night Lives with Greg and Alan, there are so many of these things. And now we've got Dr. November, which I've had an invitation to join the co-hosting of that, which is deeply kind of the community reaching out to a newbie and saying, okay, let's let this guy on board and see what happens. It really is a wonderful community. And I could go on, but that's not the point of this discussion. Mark made a point that I think is very important to understand, that the booktubers or the YouTubers with over 1,000 subscribers are less than 10%. So one needs to be realistic about that. It's the minority. And again, if I may bring some business thinking to it, the suggestion that the amount of effort you put into creating your video has any correlation to how it's received by the viewing audience is just misguided thinking. Because in the real world, it's the same as the actor saying, I learned all my lines, I rehearsed so hard, and no one came to my opening night. That's the way of the world. The thing that I work in a business environment, and the reality one learns very fast there is that the customer does not owe you anything. If you create a product, you have to create a product that has in itself intrinsic value, and then you have to market that product to find an audience, to find a consumer who wants to take your product. And there is no circumstance under which that consumer owes you, the creator, anything at all. I think it's a falsehood, and I think that maybe there's a naivety in some booktubers, not present company, I'd like to hasten to add, but I think some booktubers do believe that there is an audience out there just dying to hear everything you have to do. It's the same everywhere you go. Perhaps I've had an advantage in my time spent in the music industry and having learned as a live performer the relationship between how hard you work to create your song, to write your song, to perform your song, versus how much the audience is or isn't actually interested in it whatsoever. There's no correlation. If you hit gold, great, you're lucky. If you don't hit gold, bad luck. Back to the drawing board. I don't want to be brutal, but I think that is a reality that sometimes people fail to understand in the creative arts space of saying, I've poured my heart and soul into something, and now I expect you, the audience, to appreciate it. You are not entitled to that assumption. You have to earn it through your skill and your craft. And then there is still, I believe, I know Mark refers to luck in this process, there is still the luck of the draw. Your creation may be totally valid, but someone just doesn't like it or doesn't find it interesting. I'm always intrigued as to which of my videos have done better and which have done relatively worse. It's a sobering experience sometimes to realize that the things I thought people would be most interested in are not backed up by the numbers. But there it is. The question of watching the metrics, Shelley talked about the green arrows and the grey arrow of death, etc. I don't think any of us can pretend that we don't watch the metrics, except Steve. I'll grant Steve that I suspect he doesn't, probably because he doesn't know how to, if I'm honest. But let's take him at face value that he doesn't watch it. I do, because I'm a guy that's trained to look at numbers, and I can't resist. But I do think one needs to understand what you're looking at and why you're looking at it, and not let the tail wag the dog. If you're here to drive a business through the YouTube platform, then watch those metrics and learn those metrics. But if you're here to chat to like-minded people about the love of reading, don't get hung up in what the metrics are telling you, unless they help you to understand your particular little community of subscribers better and service them better with the next round of creations you try to make. That's the only value to me of the data and the metrics that come out of the algorithm and all the back office stuff from BookTube. I saw a video from Alison Talks Books about BookTube and authenticity, and I think that links in. I don't think it's a fourth pillar, but I think it is something that comes into the issue of whether people enjoy doing BookTube and whether they can sustain, or whether they get to a point where the pressure is too much. I'm sure I'm not alone. I have a great love of people who are just themselves, and I think all of my cohorts here on the screen qualifying in a great way. They've each got their unique personality, and we as consumers of their videos have individually fallen in love with each of those personalities, and so we stick around. I think that's fantastic. I personally am not overly fond of the people in BookTube who assume personas. There's some who are great, and there's some whose knowledge of books and content of books are so good that you stick with it anyway. But if I'm honest, I wouldn't want to have them in a live chat, because I don't know what I'd get. Whereas I think the nice thing about most of the people we watch on BookTube is that what you see is what you get. The people just chatting as they would do if you were sitting opposite them in somebody's lounge or sitting room. Yeah, Alison talked about whether if you do more than just talking straight to camera, there's something inauthentic about that. And I don't accept that. I mean, if I may use my own approach as an example, my videos are planned. I like to talk to you. They're not scripted in script form, but they are planned in sort of bullet point form, so that there's a framework to what I'm going to talk about, because otherwise I think we can ramble endlessly and get lost. I do edit, because I say and ah an awful lot, and if you think the ones I leave in are many, you should see the ones I take out. And I think also to allow a free form of chat and thinking like this, one has to allow oneself the right to chop out the bits where you went down an avenue and it just went nowhere, and you ended up thinking, well, that was a waste of a couple of minutes. It was a nice idea, but it didn't end up warranting the discussion. Things like B-roll inserts, I think it's fun, guys. Honestly, I don't think any less. Steve does none of that, and everybody loves Steve, and Steve's subscriber count is massive, so fantastic. Shelley does some, Mark does some, Randy does some. I like doing it. It's a fun thing. I like learning the skill. I like learning the tools of the trade. and I don't think it does it any harm. I'm also passionate about music, so you get music at the beginning of my video and even an exit music at the end. The other thing is you get 10 seconds of music at the beginning so that I can still show you my thumbnail. One of my regrets is people who have good thumbnails, but once you click the video, the thumbnail's gone. So you never get to see it in glorious full-size scale. I mean, if I look at the Dr. November thumbnails that have just come out, there's a raft of about 6 of them from all the co-hosts who I'm very proud to be part of. And they're all fantastic. Everybody's taken an idea, whether it's spies, whether it's James Bond, they've all done something different and creative to create a thumbnail. And some of them, when you click the video, you get the thumbnail for a little space of time, a couple of seconds, but of course there's the algorithm saying you've only got 30 seconds and then they're going to leave, so don't show them any pictures, give them a hook. And I'm going, no, I don't think so. So guys, that's sort of the response I wanted to share as a rookie. You will see on my thumbnail, which you will get to see for a few seconds at the beginning of this video, you'll see that I'm keeping up my Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance record of alliteration with lots of R's, which is just another silly thing we do in this channel because it's fun. And if that means that we don't grow to stratospheric levels, then we don't grow to stratospheric levels. And the other thing that I will take forward is if I don't have time to do something, like make a video this week, I just won't do it. And if you're all here when I come back, God bless you for it. And if you're not, life goes on. Anyway, I hope this ramble thought was interesting. I just thought rather cheekily that as a rookie booktuber, I would dive in and sort of counterbalance some of the thoughts that we've heard from the established veterans. So I hope that was interesting. And in any event, we will see you again soon, BookTube. Thanks very much. Bye-bye now.